Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the COVID-19 Academy. I hope I am audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so let's begin. Welcome to the COVID-19 Academy. I'm very happy to have all of you amongst us, and thank you for your continued support. Today's session is on continuity of students' learning, reaching the unreached. National and state governments are organizing several learning programs for students through various digital and non digital platforms. This session provides an overview of the available digital and non digital platforms to support continuity of students' learning and provides an opportunity to understand the programs and strategies being implemented at the state level. The session will focus on the multiple pathways being employed in reaching the unreached children for their continuity of learning, starting from pre primary to secondary levels of education, including out of school children. For this today, we have an extremely esteemed panel to help you understand about this. From the Odisha team, we have Srimati Anu Garg, IAS, who is the Principal Secretary of WCDMS. Srimati Anu Garg is an IAS officer of the 1991 batch. She has Masters in Sociology and in Public Health from John Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. She is presently posted in Government of Odisha as the Principal Secretary, Women Child Development, and with additional charge of Labour Department as well. Again, from the Odisha team, we have Ms. Lalita Patnaik. Ms. Lalita Patnaik is the educational specialist at UNICEF Odisha with more than 28 years of work experience in education sector, starting from being a teacher, counselor, lecturer, and researcher with NCERT. She was the faculty at Mayo College of Ajmer, Rajasthan, and Niagara College, Niagara in Odisha. She has almost more than 30 years of experience in different capacities in education and child protection. Next, I would like to move on to the Chhattisgarh team. From the Chhattisgarh team, we have Mr. Rajat Bansal, IAS, Collector and District Magistrate, Dhamtari District. Mr. Rajat is an IAS officer of the 2012 batch. After his training, he was posted as Assistant Collector at Raigad District. This was followed by his tenure as Subdivisional Magistrate at the Rajnandgaon District and later as CEO Zilla Panchayat at Surajpur District. He was then the municipal commissioner at the Raipur Nagar Nigam. Since February 2019, he has been the collector and district magistrate at Dhamtari District, Chhattisgarh. From the Chhattisgarh team, we also have with us Mr. Sheshagiri KM Rao, who works as education specialist with UNICEF Chhattisgarh. His work in education has spanned a variety of contexts with local, national, and international organizations and with government. His professional interests include early childhood development and school education. He has engaged in these fields by working with children, developing educational interventions, facilitating processes of organizational reflection, educational research, and writing on contemporary issues, educational issues. From the Uttar Pradesh team today, we have with us Mr. Ritvik Patra from UNICEF. Mr. Ritvik Patra is the education specialist at UNICEF Uttar Pradesh. He started his career as a street educator and tried to mainstream child labor from Tilak Nagar, Delhi. In last 27 years, he has been working on the issue of out-of-school children with special focus on children with disabilities, children affected by seasonal migration, and children affected by civil strife. He has also worked as teacher educator alongside his work on out-of-school children. From the Uttar Pradesh team, again, we have with us Mr. Kranti Kumar Nigam from ActionAid, who's presently working as project manager at ActionAid Lucknow Regional Office on an educational project named as Identification and Mainstreaming of Out-of-School Children, including children affected by seasonal migration. Prior to ActionAid, he worked as an advocacy officer at NACDOR and as a research supervisor for an ICSSR-sponsored education project. And last but not the least, we have with us Mr. Begur Ramchandra Rao from UNICEF New Delhi. He is currently the education specialist at UNICEF India Country Office New Delhi. He has been working in the field of education for almost 3 decades in close collaboration with national and state governments, civil society organizations, and university departments of education. Prior to joining UNICEF, he was a faculty at the Center of Advanced Studies in Education, MS University of Baroda. supporting teacher preparation and development programs, and guiding several researchers in the field of education. He has a doctoral degree in education with specialization in emotional intelligence and professional development of teachers. I would now like to hand this over to Mr. Begur. If you could please come in, set the context, and take forward the proceedings of this session. Thank you very much.
Mute off है ना.
Let me just figure out if Mr.
Thank you very much, Valerie. Um, it's a, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, Mr. Begur.
Okay, can we get the slides as well?
Please give me 1 second.
Yeah. In the meanwhile, when the slides are getting set up, let me just give you a little background of what I'm going to talk about. Basically, what I'll be doing is about giving a very brief overview of the context, and then also moving forward, what are the different programs and strategies that have been implementing basically through the other resource persons uh, in order to reach the unreached. If you all remember that the emphasis has been for us that every child has to be to provide equal opportunity for learning, and we have been talking about for that largely in this context also. It has created a lot of challenges as well. So as I said, I will be talking about mostly a very brief background. Let's go to the next slide. A very brief background of especially in terms of what is there, and what are the large resources that are available. One can use it in terms of as we said, the both digital and non-digital and different alternate pathways. And the third part, which I'll take just another minute, is to explain about the overview of what UNICEF has been supporting, and then in terms of what exactly and why this focus has been there. So coming back to the just a brief background of that, as you all know that all schools and Anganwadis have been closed almost since mid-March due to the COVID situation. And those children who have been going to the school, say for example, around 184 million children at the elementary level and 63 million students at the secondary level, and around 28 million children in the 3 to age 6 age group are actually missing on classroom based or the regular transaction of classroom learning. So this itself, the situation has created for all of us to think of it, how exactly these children can be reached and supported on the learning aspect of that. So most of you know that the national and state governments are promoting various digital and non-digital platforms for continuity of learning. Almost for the close to 1.5 months, I think there are several proactive efforts, both at the national level and at the state level. Different platforms, different pathways have been developed, explored as to how we can help children to learn even in this challenging context. Especially if I have to say a few things, you all would be knowing that at the national level, then digital platforms with regard to the e-Pathshala, the NROER, the National Repository of Open Educational Resources, and the Diksha platforms. Along with that, there are many state-specific platforms and also other private agencies developed by different private agencies. Platforms are available. coupled with large number of non-digital content in the sense also with regard to the televised programs, both Doordarshan as well as in terms of the radio programs that are available. One is about looking at how exactly one needs to be providing or facilitating the support to reach to the children. The second part also comes into play to what extent and how we are providing the learning environments. It is always important that to think of learning doesn't happen in isolation. There is an environment that gets created. Till today, we have been looking at providing learning environments at the school level. Now it is the learning at the home based learning. So what exactly learning environments get created at the home level with the different and varied situations in different conditions. To that extent, I think one of the major things which have been in the discourse of this situations which are coming up is about the responsive parenting. I think you will hear more about those things also as we move forward. We are also talking about the psychosocial support as well, the environment that needs to be created, and also the career guidance and portals that have been there. So these are some things that comes into picture as well as we are moving forward. These are some things that are very, very critical. Recently also, I would like to mention here specifically that NCRT has developed an alternate academic calendar for students, especially both at primary and upper primary, and also at the secondary levels of education. So I think there has been a lot of efforts, especially in terms of with the changing context and the situation we are all grappling in. I think there has been a lot of significant effect and proactive measures that have been actually taken forward in order to ensure that large number of children get the access and reach of it. But we also know that there are many, many challenges. Uh, and therefore, it is important to look at how exactly these programs and strategies at the field level are being reached, and to what extent the efforts have been made towards also to reaching the unreached. Next slides, please. What I'm going to give you here is a very, very brief, some of the crucial resources which have been already there. For most of you, it will also be, you might be looking at it, but definitely I would like to make a mention of few of them, which are at the national level, either at the NCRT and the MHRD level. Some of the things, say for example, at the national level, which we have been talking largely, also you will be hearing about, is that e-Pathshala. Now, I think this is one of the things where students can get access to many educational resource materials, textbooks, videos, and audio materials, variety of print and non-print materials. And this is something which also one could explore in that as well. The other thing is about the National Repository of Open Education Resources, what it has been largely called as NROER. I think this also has, lot of materials that are available resources. It's a repository, open resources. I think this is something which also can be looked at. The third, but not the least within this is the Diksha platforms. I think while it is largely at the national level, many states have adapted and contributed to this Diksha platform, which for both teachers and students, as well as in creating for the teacher educators in as to how different teaching learning materials are available. So one is about this different set of resources which are available. One can go and look at it. But on the contrary, and also supporting to this, I think there are lot many platforms, especially with regard to the TV and radio programs that are available. Here, I would like to make a mention about the Doordarshan one. There are large number of programs that are available, but with NCRT, there is most of you might have known, but still, there is one thing, the channel called the Swayam Prabha channel. I think this will provide lot of access to different grade wise learning opportunities for children at different levels, both at primary, upper primary. Now they have included at pre-primary, and also there is something called Kishore Manch, which you can see the live programs which are coming up. The fact of that is now it has got accessible with the uh, private service providers. You can also have this access of this channel with Airtel, as well as other channels at different numbers which we can provide subsequently. The important point here again I want to mention here is, while there are several accesses to different platforms, I think one single platform definitely will not be sufficient to reach all children. There needs to be multiple pathways. There is need to understand and complement each other in terms of making that if at all, if we have to reach all children, and even to the children which to the remotest star, children who are normally not able to access the resources, I think it is important to look at that aspect.
Mr. Begor, if
Another
I may come in, we'll have to wrap up in another 1 minute because we need to move to the Odisha team.
Yes, I'll just take only one more minute. I just want to mention about the NCRT's learning alternate learning academic calendar. I think this is very, very critical in the recent past. Looking at all the available resources, this has been given both in terms of linking to the learning outcomes, available resources, and how that can be used through the different platforms. This has already been developed for primary, upper primary, and secondary level. I think it is important both at the state level, this can be adapted and continuously reformed to make this happen to reach all children. The last part of next slide, please. The last thing. Now, the whole context into which we need to be talking about it. As I said earlier, that UNICEF has been continuously working with national and state governments, and also with largely with 17 state governments and partners as well, on several set of activities. What we felt with, there is a very good large programs and strategies that are being available at the field level. It is important that those programs and strategies should be made aware of the larger public, and also as we move forward, uh, the successes and the challenges that has been got through these programs can be continuously built. If you look at what we have been largely is supporting is around the four aspects. One is about the continuity of students learning. The second aspect is on the risk reduction communication messages for teachers, parents, and other functionaries. It's also about the enhancing knowledge and sharing and capacity building of these type of kinds. And all last but not the least is about the response plans to these COVID situations, both in terms of the continuity of learning as well as we move forward on the reopening of the schools. So therefore, this is the first of the series. Right now, you would have three states which will be presenting, and subsequently there will be another set of series with another groups of states and partners who will be talking about it. So there's a lot of good work that are happening. Today we will be looking at Odisha, as I said earlier, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, and Uttar Pradesh, which will be focusing on definitely on those children which normally will not be able to reach. Now, may I request now Srimati Anu Garg to take over uh, to present the good work which you have been, leading in Odisha, especially in collaboration with UNICEF at the state level. Of course, I have heard of a lot about that program, so we will be very eager. And apart from that, all the colleagues here will be definitely eager to hear that. Over to you, madam.
Thank you so much. And good evening, everyone. It is a great pleasure for me to be here. And my colleague Lalita is also here from the UNICEF. Uh, in our state, we have always been giving a lot of importance and emphasis to preschool education. Usually, what happens is that in Anganwadis, the general focus tends to be nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. But we have tried to give similar emphasis to preschool education also. And so we have a fixed day called Ankur on the 19th of every month, which is a preschool education day, where grandparents, parents, so it's like a parent teacher meeting, where We have been creating teaching learning material in 10 tribal languages. And we have been trying to do several things, understanding that stimulation of a small child's brain is critical for future. During COVID, when the Anganwadi centers closed down, we kind of realized that these children who were coming to our centers and were getting to learn a lot of things will now be going back home and maybe not getting that kind of exposure. So we started a new concept called Ghare Ghare Arunima, which is basically that the teaching goes home. In each house now, that teaching has started. So I have a small presentation, if you don't mind, if you can please put it that. A few slides back. Yeah. So this concept of Ghare Ghare Arunima is basically where what we have done is that we have made a calendar of activities for every day. We have aligned it to the workbook which was already there. So if the theme for the month was reptiles and insects, then we focused on that. And we, for example, said that the song you have to sing is on the butterfly, or the painting or the drawing you have to make is for an insect, or the story that your grandfather is going to tell you from his folklore is going to be about an animal. So those kind of things were put into the calendar, along with hand washing and other precautions, or learning how to make a mask, these type of things which was to be done by their own parents, including father. We gave a lot of emphasis to this. We call it mainstreaming, and we have tried to also involve the grandparents in this process. Now, next slide please. So the idea is not only to engage the children, but also to use the parents and to kind of make the parents participate in creating a stimulating environment, which we feel is going to be a very sustainable way of going about things. Teach them good habits, healthcare, sanitation, hygiene, hand wash, particularly in these times, and support joyful experience. And then another good thing outcome which has come out is that we are getting lot of stories, lot of poems, and the folklore. So the grandparents, the story they are telling, and some of those stories are coming back to us. Maybe someday we are going to collate them and even publish, because these are very interesting stories. Next please. So the outcome is that around 16 lakh Anganwadi children who were coming to Anganwadis have been, learning from these exercises. Every day they are doing different things. Hundreds of parents and grandparents are sharing this on our link. We have received videos with little children doing all kinds of activities. As you can see in these pictures, that is the grandfather sitting down and, doing some workbook with the child, or the mother wearing masks, playing with the child. So all kinds of things are being done below using local material only. So even if they don't have crayons, I've seen pictures where they are using the rice paste, which is traditionally used in Orissa, to make the picture of a butterfly or things like that. And we've received a lot of drawings and collages. Next please. So the idea is that we have aligned it. It's not anything new. Whatever the child was to do in that month, that has been the theme. We have tried to then cover it by doing all different types of activities. So it is singing, dancing, yoga, drawing, putting stones, making them from big to small, those kind of things. These are all very doable activities by all family members. So it's not that the parents have to be very well educated or something to do it. And we are trying to give the multi-sensory messages, interesting activities, and it's a two-way process. So while we are telling them, they are getting back to us. I'm sure many of you would be wondering, how is it that we are reaching the parents? So what we are doing is that this calendar, all the songs and the audios, the videos are being sent to the Anganwadi worker on her cell phone. And thereafter, wherever she has the cell phones of the parents, she is sending it to the parents. Wherever she doesn't, and she is able to go, she is going to the houses and she is trying to tell them to do it. Yes, it has challenges. The biggest challenge, of course, is this, that many will not have cell phones, many will not be able to access all these audios and videos. And perhaps even another challenge is that in these times, we are not really able to go to the field so much to even monitor it. So, whatever information we are getting, videos we are getting, we are trying to, we feel that it has been reasonably successful in the field. And now I will request my colleague Lalita, who has been the spirit behind this, to take this forward.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm audible, right?
Lalita, could you be a little bit louder, please? That would be perfect.
Okay. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, you're audible now.
Okay. So as ma'am said, we did this jointly with children with some meaningful activity. And in the chat box, I also saw like there were concerns about the psychosocial impact. So with this meaningful, positive engagement, the children and then the families are also able to cope up with this COVID situation. So can we move to the next slide, please, which talks about the calendar? This is the calendar. This is in English for all your reference, but we have adapted it for uh, the month according to the theme of Nuwa Runima, which is the ECC curriculum. So in this, as you see, we have given a message to the parents that it is doable, giving them the confidence. And these are mixture of activities lined up with the theme of the month. So by the end of this COVID, because of the discontinuity of this Anganwadi center, the child is not losing. If these activities are done, then by the end of the month, the children are able to also have acquired their developmental milestone and the competencies that is expected in terms of learning some rhymes, some action songs, some stories, and they would be also reciting it. And as Madam Secretary Ma'am mentioned, that we have also opportunities for collecting these localized materials, and this has created a buzz around in the entire state. So these activities, there are certain must-do activities like regular exercises, physical activity, yoga, storytelling, and also some action songs and some fun time. And there are certain activities like the hand washing, because it is a critical time to wash hands. And most interestingly, we have introduced also a song in Odia, which is a happy birthday song in Odia, and that is what the children are expected to sing and wash their hands for 20 seconds. So that is becoming a norm, a practice, and and then in addition, keeping the social distance and the message in terms of the wearing the mask and for the COVID prevention, that's also integrated into for these young children at a very, very young age. So can we move to the next, please? So the next month per calendar is on the theme of the air, water, and which is for the month of May. So what we have tried to do here is giving a structure in the uncertainty for all children and in a fun manner for continuing learning. So how do we, Malini, we can move to the next slide. So how do we pass on this message? We actually do it initially when we did it in early April. We did it through the WhatsApp, and because these songs and these stories are there in the YouTube channel, and as well as these are also available in the department's website as a package of interventions, and even the worksheets which the children are supposed to do on a weekly basis, that is also available with the Anganwadi worker, the soft copy. So that is being forwarded through the WhatsApp. But but the Anganwadi worker also has identified the households or the hamlets where the internet access is not there and the Android phones are not available. Say there, it has been also attempted that the worksheets and the songs in a written form are being handed over to those parents when the Anganwadi worker is going, visiting those households or that communities for other purposes, like either doing a survey or distribution of some supply and distribution of some nutrition and food. So this is the and you can also visit to the WCD website. There is a lot of this, all these materials are uploaded there in addition to the YouTube channels. There has been also through the institutions, training institutions, there has been special storytelling and reading festivals and reading activities are promoted, because that is one critical multi-sensory kind of a initiative for keeping children and helping children to grow. So that keeping in mind, so there is a lot of thrust on those kind of activities. And then how do we actually flow this content to the parents? So can we move to the next, please, Valit? So here we say that the contents of the Nuwa Arunima, which was a package of training DVDs, there were action songs, and there were also the worksheets, and those all that is broken into smaller pieces, and that's being passed on. And in addition to that, there are also video conferences being done for the capacity building and orientation of the functionaries, and we have also done for the NGOs and as well as for the volunteers, as and when there has been opportunity to imbibe these kind of activities at home for building their resilience, coping up with this COVID situation, building some good habits, and as well as being engaged for continuity of learning. The material is also uploaded in the website and it can be accessed, and parents are also encouraged to learn and share some of these activities, which are the very common activities like helping them at home or gardening or the activities that children usually can do, but the parents have not been doing. So here we also give them those opportunities and those instructions through this calendar for encouraging parents to do those with the children, which can be also psychosocially recuperating for both parent and the children. So can we move to the next, please? So these are so there has been a lot of very positive enthusiastic response, and the NGOs network orientation, the stories that has been told by the parents and the grandparents and the Anganwadi worker is only a facilitator here. And then this is being also amplified in the print, social and electronic media with a multiple approaches, so that it reaches to the maximum and most unreached. So the print through the newspaper, we have also planned to do this for this month, and the e-newspapers can also be one of the calendar printed form which can be also utilized by them. And now in 1 month's time, we launched it last month with the Department of Women and Child Welfare Department across the state. And there has been numbers of very enthusiastic response, the practices and how the families have been engaged in this kind of activity has been encouraging. So a glimpses of those proof of concepts are there. And then so we are building on this and planning to sustain it as a strategy, as we have discovered jointly during the COVID time, for the regular time as well, for parenting and early stimulation. So thank you so much. And if there are any questions, or you are encouraged to visit the WCD website. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them later.
Thank you, Lalita. Begur, can you please come in?
Okay, I think thank you very much, Lalita and Ms. Garg, for the nice presentation, especially on the focusing on the preschool. Can we move to now to Uttar Pradesh? Now, can I request? I think Ritvik may be coming first. I suppose. So this is something very interesting program strategy. I think Uttar Pradesh is focusing on, especially as to how the out of school children are being reached. Over to Uttar Pradesh and probably Ritvik to begin with. Ritvik?
Thank you, Vegur. Mr. Ritvik, are you there? Can you hear us? Okay, I don't see Ritvik online. Let me just speak with
Kranti?
Kranti. Are you there? Kranti, you'll have to unmute yourself and speak, please.
Now it is clear.
Yes, Kranti, you are audible. Thank you so much.
I was saying that there is some technical problem in with this laptop. He was telling that I will be coming back just now.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Ritvik is back. Ritvik, could you please unmute yourself and speak?
Yes.
Great.
Sorry, my computer got restarted, and I don't know how. Anyway, can I start our presentation? Can you please put on the presentation, please?
Yes, please. I will do that.
Yeah. So good afternoon to everybody, and we have a very small presentation from Uttar Pradesh, and we'll talk about the intervention we started in 2018 on out-of-school children, and how that intervention is now helping us to reach out to the most unreached, in real sense, who are the most unreached. So we started this as part of our new country program, where identification and mainstreaming of out-of-school children was the flagship intervention from UNICEF Education. And we selected 20 districts, mostly the most backward districts from all parts of Uttar Pradesh. And can you go to the next slide, please? Yes. So we selected these 20 districts in consultation with government, of course. And then we thought that to reach out to the most unreached, the Dalit population, the Mahadalit population, the Muslim minority population, we need to have a lot of volunteers. It cannot be done, the kind of issues we have in Uttar Pradesh, the number of out-of-school children. And to give a very little background to it, as you know that Government of India studies says that Uttar Pradesh has 16 lakh out-of-school children. But till 2017, Uttar Pradesh used to report 30,000, 25,000, that kind of, and we never had any definition of out-of-school children. So this program actually helped to come up with a definition to make a big shift, I would say paradigm shift in the government's approach towards out-of-school children, because in 2018, our volunteers, whom we call them influencers, they came up with results in those pockets, which was kind of eye-opener, eye-opening kind of situation for the government. We discussed those results, we discussed those case studies, we shared with the government how what kind of problems the children are facing, the teachers are facing, what kind of bottlenecks the district administrations are facing. And Uttar Pradesh came up with a definition of out-of-school children, and the whole program was kind of revived. A new guideline came up. As a result, in 2018-19, the state could identify more than 3 lakh, more than 3 lakh 25,000 out-of-school children and mainstream them, successfully mainstream them. Most of them, around 10,000, are still not mainstream. And in this 3 lakh 20,000 odd children, more than half was from the 20 districts where our influencers were working. And to give a little more background to the influencers, they were selected to a process which was very rigorous. We took around 6 months to come up with that, with the group of volunteers who were from that community, the communities which we were targeting, like the most deprived communities, and local youth, and SMC member, Gram Pradhan, ward member. So it's a variety of people from the villages working for their own villages. That was the purpose, and none of them are paid a single paisa. From 2018 to today, 2020, they have kind of become the local RTE activists in those villages and doing their best to identify each and every out-of-school children and to improve attendance, which is a big issue in the schools of Uttar Pradesh as well as in many other states. So apart from identification and helping to the schools to mainstream to improve attendance, our influencers also tried their best to see that those families, those deprived families, can avail the facilities, the schemes, social protection schemes, which government has, like BOCW schemes, and that's only one example which we are citing now. So when, like Begur said, Begur gave a very broad, kind of the canvas of all sorts of online digital education is happening. And the same is happening in Uttar Pradesh. UNICEF is working very closely with state government. And we have online platforms. We have some materials are being distributed through WhatsApp. Some are through phone calls. Some are being broadcast from radio and TV. Right now, the worksheets are being printed. They are already developed, and those worksheets will be sent. So the government, UNICEF, working together to do that. But what we did, we take this opportunity to see how our influencers can also